This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The two-day summit of African heads of state of the International Development Association is to be held as of tomorrow, Sunday, in the Republic of Kenya. The Speaker of the Council of the Nation, Saleh Goujil, has currently denounced the international community's inaction towards the Palestinian issue and reiterated Algeria's support to the cause and to all fair causes in the world. The US Department of State draws a grim picture about human rights situation in Morocco and occupied Western Sahara, listing numerous violations recording in 2023. Several people were today killed and scores of others wounded in new bombardment carried out today by the Israeli occupation army against the central part of the Gaza Strip. Those were the major developments. Now the full news edition. Good afternoon. The Speaker of the National People's Assembly, Brahim Bourali, is taking part in the 6th Conference of Arab Parliaments and Speakers of Arab Parliaments in Cairo, Egypt. Speeches and presentations will be made by the heads of the participating delegations. The second-day summit of African heads of state of the International Development Association is to be held as of tomorrow, Sunday, in the Republic of Kenya. Heads of African states and the World Bank are expected to attend the summit. Algerian radio envoy Samar Hamedi tells us more about the World Bank's International Development Association in this report.
How to face some of the world's biggest challenges, fight against poverty, what measures should be taken to accelerate development in Africa and revive the economic growth of countries. One way is through IDA, the International Development Association. The government of Kenya will be hosting African heads of state and the World Bank for the International Development Association for Africa Heads of State Summit on April 28th and 29th in Nairobi. IDA is the part of the World Bank that provides grants and low-interest loans to help countries to invest in their futures, improve lives, and create safer, more prosperous communities around the world. On the occasion of the summit of heads of states, representatives of governments, civil society and youth from across Africa will come together to express their ambitions and plead for increased support from the International Development Association. But what does IDA really do for people? For more than 60 years, IDA has worked with countries and partners to boost economic growth, build resilience and reduce poverty, and this by building hospitals, preparing for climate disasters, ensuring access to food and clean water, educating young people, and creating quality jobs. From Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, Samar Hamedi, the Algerian radio.
Let's recall that the Summit of African Heads of State of the International Development Association will be held tomorrow in Kenya. The Speaker of the Council of the Nation, or Senate, Saleh Goujil, has strongly denounced the international community inaction towards the Palestinian issue and reiterated Algeria's support to the cause and to all fair causes in the world. In a speech read on his behalf by the Vice Head of the Council of the Nation, Ahmed Kharsh, at the 5th Conference of the Parliamentarians League held in Istanbul, Turkey, he rejected the international community's passivity as well as its double-standard policy regarding the Palestinian cause. The Speaker of the Senate stated that the tragedy of Gaza in oppressed and injured Palestine had unveiled the fragility of the current international order and altered the credibility of its legal system, which, instead of safeguarding international peace and security, had turned into an instrument of betrayal. And now several people were today killed and scores of others wounded in new bombardments carried out today by the Israeli army against the central part of the Gaza Strip. The news agency Wafa said at least 8 Palestinians, including women and children, were killed, and about 30 others were wounded in airstrike targeting the refugee camp of Nuseirat in the central part of the territory. The Israeli army has intensified its attack on the area, as well as on the town of Gaza, raising the death toll to over 34,300 since Israel launched its operation on Gaza over 6 months ago. And now clashes between students and police officers have been reported all over the United States during intensifying university protests. More in this report by Essia Bekkar.
The Gaza Solidarity Encampment at Columbia University aimed at pushing their institute to divest from companies linked to Israel has since spread to campuses in California, Texas, and other states. More than 20 universities in the U.S. are protesting against the Israeli genocidal war on Gaza, where more than 34,000 people have been killed. Meanwhile, students worldwide have been demonstrating in support of Gaza since October 7th. In Paris, the Sorbonne University students have taken to the streets. Additionally, the Palestine Committee from Political Sciences is organizing a protest where students set up about 10 tents on Wednesday. Despite the police crackdown, the protesters gathered on Thursday. In Australia, students from University of Sydney set up pro-Palestine encampments on Tuesday, and they were continuing to protest on Friday. Also, the University of Melbourne students pitched tents on the south lawn of their main campus on Thursday. In Italy, Rome, students from Sapienza University organized demonstrations, sittings, and hunger strikes on April 17th and April 18th. And in Great Britain, every Saturday demonstrations in support of Gaza take place in London and other cities, where dozens of people take to the streets to express their solidarity with the Palestinian people. Furthermore, in the German capital Berlin, police removed tents set up by demonstrators in front of Parliament and forced them to move away and closed off the surrounding area to prevent other demonstrations from taking place.
And now in Lebanon, an Israeli drone strike killed 3 people in West Bekaa in the eastern part of the country. According to local sources, the Israeli raid targeted a house of the southern village of Kfar Kila, which was completely destroyed. Let's recall that since the Israeli aggression against the Gaza Strip, the Israeli occupation forces intensified their aggression on Lebanon, notably in the south, killing tens of people and wounding others. The U.S. Department of State draws a grim picture about the human rights situation in Morocco and occupied Western Sahara, listing numerous violations recording in 2023. More in this report by Mejid Mila.
A report issued by the United States Department of State highlights a series of violations linked to the lack of respect for human rights, reporting notably cases of torture in detention, cruel, inhuman, or humiliating treatment of the demonstrators by the security forces for the independence of Western Sahara. It is said that during 2023, the Moroccan authorities restricted freedom of speech, assembly, and association, imprisoned journalists and human rights activists, and resorted to threats, harassment, and excessive force against peaceful protesters, as well as torture. It added that the governmental institutions and non-governmental organizations have received reports on abuses of people in detention. The Public Prosecutor's Office received 6 grievances of torture and 47 of excessive violence during the first half of the year. The document also notes accusations of humiliating treatment of Sahrawi pro-independent demonstrators for Sahrawi who claim to release their political prisoners, regretting that the authorities had rejected the complaints about abuses in Western Sahara. The report further deplores that the investigations on police abuses and detention centers have lacked transparency, stating that these investigations have often encountered long delays and procedures obstacles that have led to impunity. Based on NGOs and local associations data, the report maintains that the police sometimes arrested people without a warrant, that some trials are politicized, particularly when it comes to Western Sahara or the monarchy. The document also reports human rights violations perpetrated by security officials against Sahrawi, including arbitrary detentions. Amnesty International and Transparency International have reported continued arbitrary restrictions on the rights to freedom of peaceful gatherings and association, particularly for those supporting the independence of Western Sahara, the report notes, asserting that the Moroccan occupying authorities systematically reject requests for registration from Sahrawi human rights groups. The report from the American State Department also recalls that for the 8th consecutive year, the High Commissioner for Human Rights was not authorized to make visits to Western Sahara, while Morocco began on January 1st a 3-year mandate at the head of the United Nations Human Rights Council. The Moroccan government has not sent permanent invitations to mandate holders under United Nations special procedures. The government also continued to postpone or fail to respond to visit requests from the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Disability and the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, deplores the report. Numerous other infringements on the freedom of expression and press are listed in the report, highlighting the arrest and imprisonment of journalists, as well as the use of anti-terrorism laws to pursue people who express dissenting opinions.
The United Nations has sounded the alarm about the possible imminent attack on El Fasher in Sudan's North Darfur, as the global body seeks to reduce tensions in the last major city in the region not under the control of the Rapid Support Forces. More details with Majid Mila.
The spokesman of the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that the RSF was reportedly encircling Al Fasher, suggesting that a coordinated move to attack the city may be imminent. Guterres called on all parties to refrain from fighting in Al Fasher area, adding that his envoy to Sudan, Ramtan Lamamra, was working to de-escalate the tensions. The United Nations spokesperson added that an attack on the city would have devastating consequences for the civilian population. This escalation of tensions is in an area already on the brink of famine. Under Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordination Martin Griffiths, for his part, said an escalation of hostilities in Sudan's Al Fasher would be catastrophic. Civilians that are already struggling to survive hunger and deprivation. He said civilians must be spared from violence, calling on the parties to protect civilians and ensure safe passage for those hove to safety. Meanwhile, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, expressed grave concern over fighting near the city. A statement from Turk's office: and dozens of people have been killed in and around Al Fasher in the past 2 weeks. Residents, aid agencies and analysts have warned that the fight for Al Fasher, historic center of power, would be more protracted. War erupted in Sudan 1 year ago between the Sudanese army and the parliamentary RSF, creating the world's largest displacement crisis.
In the autonomous region of Kurdistan in Iraq's northern part, 4 workers were killed in a drone strike targeting a gas field in the area. No group claimed their responsibility for the attack, which targeted the Hormor gas field, the head of the Shamshamel district, where the field is managed by the Dana Gas Emirati firm, stressed that the attackers will be punished. Meanwhile, the Joint Command of the operation launched a commission of inquiry to determine the circumstances of the attack described as sabotage. Now, the friend of the Algerian Revolution, Beya Dahmoun, born Brio Andrea Lisjan, widow of the war veteran Mustafa Dahmoun, has passed away. The Minister of War Veterans, Laido Ribiga, extended his sincere condolences to the family of the deceased and her companions in the fight for freedom. Now, the Italian critics and filmmakers have taken part in a special conference entitled 130 Years of Italian Cinema Through the Eyes of Critics as part of the Fall Mediterranean Film Festival, where Italy is guest of honor. More in this report by Asia Bakar.
The speakers spoke about this period and the role played by the Italian cinema in dealing with issues and events that have marked the modern history of nations. The film critic Massimo Lecce recalled in this context the presence of the Arab world and Algerian Italian cinema and the interest shown by Italian seventh art in questions relating to peoples of the Arab region. In this regard, he shared examples of cinematographic works by Italian directors, like the one who directed Italian-Algerian films. On the sidelines of the conference, the director of the Italian Cultural Institute in Algeria, Antonia Grande, who also participated in the debates, recalled the Italian-Algerian friendship and pleaded for its deepening in different fields. She stressed that the organization of such festivals is an opportunity to initiate joint cinematographic projects and strengthen exchanges between filmmakers from the two countries. On the occasion of this conference, an exhibition was organized to admire photographs of Italian films and Italian-Algerian co-productions.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. That's it for our news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to a special program by my colleague Essia Bakar on the month of heritage.
Hello there and welcome to our Fresh Culture edition. Algeria is currently celebrating the Heritage Month that extends annually from April 18th to May 18th. Many events are taking place as part of the Heritage Month and many others are scheduled. The National Museum of Fine Arts is holding guided tours, lectures, publications and tributes on the occasion of the celebrations of the Month of Heritage. The public is invited to attend exhibitions of contemporary calligraphy, conferences and guided tours, while children are called to participate in workshops held by the museum every Tuesday. The museum launches this year a restoration operation for 3 sculptures by the famous French sculptor Auguste Rodin, led by the Algerian sculptor and academic Ali Boukhalifa. The museum also offers the work of great Algerian visual artists of the first half of the 20th century at the Mohammed Khadda Gallery, in addition to works of contemporary Asian art at the Mohammed Isiakham Gallery. Documentaries on the Museum of Fine Art, its collection and the history of Algerian art are also being broadcast regularly at the museum. Also the National Arab American Heritage Month. It's all about celebrating the history, heritage and culture of Arab Americans, as well as honoring their contributions to the American society. It is a time of celebrating the accomplishments of educators, writers, poets and musicians who promote the Arab American heritage and culture, a testament to the contributions Arab Americans have made to America's diversity. It is an opinion shared by many other Arab Americans.
I think the Heritage Month is a great idea. You know, this is something that we have to work to make it a reality in the United States.
And it's going to take a counter culture and a counter effort on our behalf to bring it back to a neutral point, then to win the public over.
We're going to be as active as we possibly can be. We're always in the community. We have our hand in hand with the community. So we're always proud to be a part of the work that's being done here.
In a letter to Arab America blog and the Arab America Foundation, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, recognized National Arab American Heritage Month. The letter was released at the Arab America Foundation's annual commemorative event on Sunday afternoon, which celebrated the contributions of Arab Americans. The Open Door event on the National Center for Prehistoric, Anthropological and Historical Research kicked off on Monday in Algiers with displaying the discoveries and achievements of the center. The display also sheds light on the center's efforts to preserve, maintain, and enhance this heritage. Among the highlighted heritage is Sbeiba. The center shows images to give the public a glimpse of the feast of Sbeiba and Sbu', the celebration of the 7th day of a newborn. Ahlil music, the ritual of Sidi Sheikh, Imzad, Couscous, and others are also displayed. Also bones, stones, ceramic objects, human and animal remains from prehistoric times, which have been found in many sites, are displayed in the center. 30 archaeological pieces of a mosaic were discovered in the eastern province of Jijel and transferred to the city's public museum to be preserved from further damage. Archaeologists are pursuing excavation on the site. Last week, a citizen discovered a mosaic during construction work in his house in downtown Jijel. And in his latest novel entitled Nirvana, the writer Amin Zawi immerses the reader in the history of Algeria from the Ottoman era to the post-colonial period in a narrative description characterized by symbolism and inspired by the popular legacy. The 294-page novel tells about the history of Algeria in fragments through the journey of a family who lives in the village of Arbouz, where the main character's great-grandfather chose to settle down, fleeing the tyranny and injustice of the Ottomans, who severely burdened him and his tribe with taxes. Even after the capture of their children sent as slaves to Topkapi Palace, the great-grandfather refused to have his sister Dihya imprisoned by soldiers. He is then led to commit a crime to free her and live as a fugitive before finding refuge in this village full of traditions and folk customs. The singer Okil Omar died Sunday in his hometown in Tizi Ouzou at the age of 98. The artist sang about revolution, independence, and the motherland. His singing career ended in 2012 following a stroke that left him voiceless. Celebrates this Friday the International Jazz Day. The UNESCO announced the program for the 10th anniversary edition of International Jazz Day with an inspiring series of performances and educational and community outreach initiatives in more than 190 countries. Hosted by Multi-Academy Award-winning actor Michael Douglas, the 2021 All-Star Global Concert will be streamed live from UNESCO in Paris and the United Nations in New York, with a lineup of some of the best international artists performing from cities around the world. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres will speak during the concert, of which jazz piano player Herbie Hancock will be the artist director. UNESCO created International Jazz Day to share the values of a deeply meaningful musical style. It said the world needs jazz and its values that are based on human dignity and the fight against racism and all forms of oppression. It is so much more than music. Jazz is the kind of bridge builder the world needs today. UNESCO said the International Jazz Day community has displayed incredible resilience, creativity, ingenuity, and compassion throughout the immense challenges of the past year. While the global pandemic continues to make life difficult for so many around the world, the example of organizers from Nepal to Mexico to Cameroon inspires us to greet this historic 10th anniversary milestone with joy, courage, and hope for the future of jazz. In parallel, an array of virtual and socially distant activities will take place across the globe on 30 April and in the current days leading up to the International Jazz Day. Established by UNESCO in 2011 at the initiative of UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador Herbie Hancock and recognized by the United Nations General Assembly, International Jazz Day brings together countries and communities worldwide every 30 April to celebrate the International Art Forum of Jazz, highlighting its important role in encouraging dialogue, combating discrimination, and promoting human dignity. The Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz is UNESCO's partner in the organization and promotion of International Jazz Day. That's it for our Culture Edition this week. Do join us next week for a new Culture Agenda. Until then, goodbye and take care.